Welcome to Life with No Breaks. I'm your host, WhyNetta, and it is so good to say this is the beginning of season 2. Yay! I am so thankful for being able to have this platform to speak on. I am so grateful to have this type of platform to be able to share my opinions and life experiences with others. The 2022 through 2024, that journey, that 2-year journey knocked me down on my behind so many times. But I wanted to be able to pull out the main parts of the story to be able to reflect upon versus every single bit of it, because it actually goes back to 2018. I think it's something that I needed to be able to do or to go through to be able to learn a little bit more humility, because even though I have always been a humble person, maybe, just maybe, this was something that God wanted me to put my eyes on. So take a listen to my testimony. 2 years ago, my life went through a modification, to put it as nicely as I can. Leading up to the 2-year anniversary, I kept hearing the pastor that I love to listen to, Pastor Jamila Gooden. I watch her as often as I possibly can. When I'm able to catch her live in the morning time, I'll turn her on and listen to her and take in her prophetic words and start my day off on a positive note, knowing that I got some inspiration to begin my day or to fuel my day per se. But she has been saying on repeat for weeks now about someone being out there that needs to tell their testimony. Now, I have been saying to myself that I have a story to tell, and I've been afraid to tell it because of the fact that I still have a side of me that I'm working on that has more to do with not wanting to create enemies or not wanting to step on anyone's feet, but I have to get to a point in my life where that's displaced loyalty. And I shouldn't be having displaced loyalty for anyone who's never been loyal to me. But I also can be able to continue to be true to myself and speak my story without, I'll say, defaming the person that's in the story along with me. So I'm going to tell my story, my testimony, because this is something that I feel like I need to do to share with other people and to be able to reflect how these 2 years actually went from being, in the beginning, the worst times of my life to where now it's, let's just say that it's just night and day difference. And I'm doing this raw, so this next part is going to be raw, unedited, me speaking from the heart so I can get this all off my chest. In December of 2022, I was in the midst of packing up all of my belongings, my kids' belongings, because we had to move. At that time, I had no place for me and my family to transition to. None. There were many homes that were on the market, but with all of the expectations that these different companies have, it was just basically way too much money in order for me to even find a home to transition to. And every time I found something that was in my price range, it seemed like someone else found it too. So during that time, there was a lot of unrest in my life. And the reason why we were moving was because we had been evicted. And the reason why we were evicted was, well, it was because the landlord didn't get paid, but it was also because the person that I was married to made the decision to ask them or instruct them to evict us. And I had struggled with that ever since he did that. I had struggled with that so much because I could not fathom that ever happening. And then at that point in life, I had already used my money towards repairs in the home as well as replacing the refrigerator and dishwasher in that particular home. And school had begun and I had to get the kids ready for school. So I was spent and I had not replenished my funds. So I had to rely on the person that I was with to take care of everything. And it was just a temporary situation. However, the person did not want to continue. So, because of their decision, we had to move. And unfortunately, my family and I were homeless for a few months. And I know that there are a lot of people that have been homeless for years and have gone through a lot more than I have. So I'm very thankful to God that He was able to bless me to be able to be in the home that I am in now. So I'm very thankful for that. But at that time, I did not see any hope for that. It was bleak to me. It just felt like I was trying to obtain something that was out of reach. Looking at the news and reading different articles, I was looking and seeing that normally when people are in that situation, that it takes them a very long time to be able to, get a sense of stability back. And in one way, that that was like crushing to me because it made me fearful. I started panicking over not knowing if I would be able to take care of my family, if I'll be able to get them back into a home, if I can be able to bring a sense of stability back to my family and correct the issue that was created based on the decision that I made to be with that person. And I had all that going on in my head. And when it was officially time for us to move out, there were different things that happened in that month of December that I just could not wrap my mind around. Someone's calling the police on me for a welfare check on my kids saying that they've been murdered. Then I have someone who is saying that I have abused my children. I was about to say beaten, but abused my children. And then having that person go to the child's school, to our child's school, say things that an adult should not be speaking to at that time, 6-year-old child about. I just had enough. I really had enough. It was just a lot that was going on. And I thought that I was drowning. By that point, I was transitioning into an extended stay with my family. And I just found myself making sure that they went to bed, going outside to my van and sitting there. And I know that there was some periods that I was sitting in there crying. I would use, TikTok to entertain me. But I would sit out in that van for a couple of hours looking at my room door and wiping away tears or trying to find a way to get us out of the situation that we were in. But I could not even think straight to know the first step of what to do. And then being harassed by the person who created this mess for my life, it was just way too much. So, unfortunately for them, I had to get a restraining order and the judge approved it. And for an entire year, I started working on the problem. After I noticed that the restraining order was in effect, because at first, when the restraining order was given, in the back of my mind, it was like, I don't even know if he's gonna listen to the judge. I don't even know if this really is truly happening. Am I not gonna be harassed? Is some type of peace about to come? And when I noticed that I hadn't gotten a call, email, text message, nothing from nobody on that person's side, nor from him, I was like so relieved. And then at that point, that's when I started really investigating what can I do to be able to get out of this situation. While I'm trying to figure out how to get my family and I back into a home, ended up falling for a rental scam, end up having to start all over again as far as looking for another place, being able to get money, having to move from one extended stay hotel to another because of the fact of the amount of money that it costs to just stay in those places. Oh my goodness. But anyway, I had to figure out how to maintain a roof over our head. There were some nights that we had to be in the van. However, we were able to go into these extended stays for a longer amount of time than it was us actually having to sleep in the van. So I'm very thankful for that. But I also had to start working on myself because I tried to reach out for therapy during that time because my mind was here, there, and everywhere. And for some weird reason, I was denied service or, yeah, that's literally what it was. I was denied service from this one place and I just wanted help with depression. And when I was denied, I just basically went into a mental spiral because it felt like I can't even get this place that's very convenient for me to be able to go to. I can't get them to help. Now I understand how other people will think, well, you know what? There's so many different mental health, providers that are out there. You could have found somebody else. But what was significant about this particular place was that not only were they going to help me with my issues that I was having with postpartum depression, put it like that, I was also told that they had different services that could be able to help me to pay for any deposits, stuff like that. So I was trying to utilize all the resources that I was told that I could be able to have access to. And I just saw that place as being a one size, well, not a one size, but basically it's a one-stop shop. That was something that I was looking at because I needed the help because I had never been in that situation before. And when they declined, even declining to, give me a therapist through their thing, I just fell into, I believe, a deeper depression and I couldn't think. And I remember sitting out on the wall over there in Town Suites. I started looking up at the sky. And before I knew it, I was just crying. And I was like, why is this happening? Why can't I do what it is that needs to be done? Why can't I think straight? Why I've been asking for help with my concentration and I can't get it. I was just bawling, sitting outside crying, bawling, and talking to myself. I felt like I had lost my ever loving mind. But I also knew that when it comes to life, life has its side effects. And that was just a compilation of the different side effects that life throws at you. But I was dealing with all of it at that point at one time. And after I got finished crying, I remember telling myself, Netta, You can only do this one thing at a time. So you can't worry about why your heart is aching. You can't worry about all these different things that you have no control over. You can only work at one thing at a time. So what's the most important thing that you need to work on? Do that. And that's what I did. And the most important thing at that time for me was getting my kids back into a home. So after me doing that, I mainly focused on what it was that I need to do when it came to the kids and got them to school, made sure that I did everything in my power to find a place and eventually the home that I'm currently in. I I was lucky to stumble upon it. Not lucky, I was blessed. And ever since I laid eyes on the photo of this home, I knew that this home was going to be mine, and I am so grateful to God that it is. I instantly knew that that was one thing that I had to check off my list. Now I don't have to look for a home. Home has been found. We have moved. We have moved away from the extended stay. Now, what's the next thing? And then I thought about getting the stuff here, worked on it, ended up falling for a moving scam. Then here we go. I just want to put this out there too. Thumbtack has to do a better job in screening because y'all, oof, Jesus. Anyway, so I started thinking about my mental health and I went and I said, we have to figure out what's going on with us. And I knew that I could be able to get a therapist, but it was like I wasn't feeling those feelings that I felt like I was, wanting to harm myself or anything like that. Like that type of stuff I've never had those type of thoughts. But I felt like it was time for me to go and seek therapy. But with everything that was going on with inside of my head, I had to start unpacking and getting those things out before I got to a therapist. So I started to unpack because I wanted to know, okay, now it's time to operate on our heart. Well, why is it that I chose this person? And why did I stay despite what it was that I seen and that my intuition was telling me? But I ignored every single one in order for me to be able to give my all. And when I say I gave my all, I gave my all to that person. And I wanted to know what was it? What was it? And I dug deep and I ended up finding out what the problem was. It just feels like I'm lighter because I was able to look back at the situation that had me at one point crying, bawling, eyes red, snotting, and all that, to where I could be able to realistically look at the situation and take my feet out of those shoes. Because a lot of times when we have heartaches, we tend to focus on what it is that that other person does. And we look at it or we dive into it with it as if we are those people and give them so much more power or put so much more emphasis on that moment versus what it really and truly was. And when I took my feet out of that situation and looked at it for what I knew when it came to that person, honey, I was laughing my behind off. The one question that I kept asking him was the one thing that he was refusing to answer. And then when I sat back and I asked myself that same question with my feet being out of that person's shoes, because like I said, I was thinking like me and them. So I had to start thinking like them. And what it was is that that person wanted me to take back what it was that I was accustomed to doing, which was taking care of the household, solo dolo. So all of that stemmed from, can't be an adult anymore. You get this shit. And I couldn't stop laughing because that right there helped me to be able to, at this point, be civil with him because we have children together. But with me breaking through that, and I did that before that restraining order expired. When I figured that out, that was in December of last year. 2023, that's when I made that revelation. And since then, I've been happier. I've been more energetic. I've been out taking walks and enjoying the scenery. I have met new people. I stopped being so isolated and down and depressed and started working on those things that were plaguing my mind that I was just tired of hearing in my head. I started working on those things and I have a therapist now. So I am happy with that. But it's like I remember in December of last year how I was so down because the transition, and that's the part that I'm purposely leaving out. But for those who have dealt with homelessness and you had to do it by yourself, you know that there is difficulty with the transition from being in those extended stays to now you're in your own home. Instead of it being one price for everything, you're literally paying separate prices to separate businesses for the services that you use, your utilities, your cable, stuff like that. And you notice how it's higher. Now it's a higher bill that you have to pay, multiple bills that you're paying now. And now financially you're strained because there's so much more that you need to do to be able to completely stabilize from not having your own for even that short period of time to now you have your own, but you're trying to stabilize and you can't because money is going here, there, and everywhere, and you don't account for how high bills have actually gotten. So I started thinking more positively. I started putting more effort into establishing confidence within myself. I made the decision to have faith in myself because that was hard for me to do. I know that I've been preached to and taught that you should have faith the size of a mustard seed for the Creator, for God. I have that. I have that for Him. I have that for His Son. But I did not have any faith in myself. And what I was missing was I didn't have any more faith in myself because I had given it away. I had more faith in other people and their words. I didn't have that confidence, that self-worth to be able to say that, yeah, you did it. You did the hard part. Now, everything else, let's just work and get it. No, I wasn't thinking in that way. I started thinking extremely negatively and couldn't help it. So when I figured out I needed to start building my confidence, my self-worth, basically building faith within me, once I made that decision, I started noticing that things were auto-correcting. Every time I say that I'm going to that this is going to happen, these good things are going to happen, it's been coming in. So from December of 2023 to today, I can say every day has gotten better. I'm able to smile more. I'm able to even deal with the pettiness of my ex. I can deal with a lot without feeling mentally bogged down. I took the time out, which I ended up sharing, I believe in season 1, that I felt overwhelmed. I was able to put forward what I told myself that I would do if I felt that way again, and it actually worked. It seems like I am going through a phase of autocorrection. I'm autocorrecting my mental, I'm autocorrecting my physical. I'm just left in awe seeing it materialize. So after heartache, there is a better side. So that's my testimony. But there are two parts of it that I forgot, two lessons that I learned that I forgot to include, and I'm just gonna state those real quick, which is being truthful. Standing 10 toes down in the truth is a heck of a lot better than standing 10 toes down in someone else's lies. Regardless of what was being flung at me, I continued to walk in my truth. No matter how hard that walk was, I kept walking in my truth. And then number two, I became humble. Now I was already a humble person because of my upbringing. I felt like that particular situation was meant to humble me back to where I was, to be able to understand that even though we have the opportunity to have all these materialistic things, we we also have to be able to remind ourselves that these things can be able to go away at any instance, regardless if it's caused by you or caused by another. So I had to become very humble because being homeless, talking to people who had been homeless for way longer than you, seeing situations happening in that type of environment, I felt like um I grew wiser in that particular situation. I felt like I grew older in that situation too. So those are two additional takeaways from my situation that I wanted to be able to share. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for taking the time out to listen to me. And until next time, take care.